Guys, what's up, man? What's up, Ian?
What's up, man? Thank you for having me.
No problem, bro. I haven't seen you since fucking when you were down for the podcast, the live podcast with Full
Yeah.
Wild and
I think I might
Hostile.
have bumped into you at the Olympia. You were at the Olympia,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah, that's right.
I
Yeah.
think I might have bumped into you briefly, like around the athletes meeting and stuff. But yeah, the last time we
Yes.
really spoke or talked was as at the event, the live podcast event there last spring. Yeah.
Yes. Are you going down to you going to the Arnold?
No, I'm not. I'm staying back here.
Oh shit. Okay, well I won't bump into you then.
I
I'm
wish
not
I was going. No, it's I'm back in Canada with Melissa. We're just hanging out here for a bit. So I
gotcha.
didn't really have anything going on for the Arnold. There was no booths or anything, and there was stuff to do, but I'd rather just chill back here. I started prep now for my first show of the year, so I'd rather just get locked into that and focus on that. I like watching the shows in the comfort of my living room too. So
Yeah, especially if you're rolling into prep and getting all that started, man.
yeah, for sure. I did a lot of travel last year and early this year and stuff. So I'm looking forward to just staying in one place and getting locked in.
Got you. So, Ian, man, I brought you on because I want to hear how teenage little Ian became this fucking monster, repping out massive deadlifts and squats and
Yeah.
all these things. And then, as you progress through your career, man, because I remember listen, you're from Canada, so
Yep.
we don't get that much access to the bodybuilders
Sure.
unless you like become top notch
Yep.
in another country. And I remember when you came on the scene, I was like, man, this fucking guy is huge. It was the
Thank you.
shoulders and everything like that, man. But to get to that point, man, I'm sure you went through some struggles and difficulties. And that's
Sure.
really what I want to hear about that, man. We want to hear about that. So that way your struggles could be some struggles that people go through and they can
Absolutely.
relate and it can help them in their career, man.
Yeah. No, I mean I hear you for sure, man. I mean bodybuilding is definitely a weird sport in that it's like with you all the time. It's not like it's just when you're training or just when you're doing this. I mean, it's one of those things that you kind of carry around with you every day, all day, if you want to be at that elite level, right? I mean, in terms
Yeah.
of your eating, just your daily habits, your sleep, from everything down to your supplementation, your training. I mean, everything you do in a day can have some kind of impact in terms of what it does to your physique or something that is going to, indirectly or directly impact your physique. So, I know for a lot of, young guys out there getting started, it can be a daunting task, but I mean, I've been at this a long time now, man. I did my first show in 2010. So we're like 13 years in now. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, when you were in school, like, how did you play sports? How did everything progress until you wanted to just
Yeah.
bodybuild?
It's funny. It's not really a coincidence, or it is, not really a coincidence that I ended up in bodybuilding, because I've always been into individual sports like that. I ran track, so it's kind of the same thing, right? You have a coach and one athlete, and you're kind of doing your individual thing. I was never really a big one for team sports. I played a short stint of football as I got, later in high school. My track career was kind of coming, to a crossroad. Um, but no, I've really always been one of those guys that likes to have my success completely in my own hands in that regard, in terms of the effort that I put in terms of my training, or just like I said, day-to-day things, right? Those small things, especially in bodybuilding, that, just through training isn't enough to give you the edge. It's what you do every day. So I started in track. I was a sprinter and long jumper, so I ran the 1-200 long jump, did that throughout high school. Well, even from younger than that, from elementary school right up to finishing high school, that was really what I did. And that's still one of my true loves and passions. I mean, I follow track and field closer than I probably follow bodybuilding, honestly.
Yeah.
It's one of my first loves, so that's really what got me first into any kind of athletics, any kind of training. That was my first introduction to weight training. As I got a little older, a little more advanced into track and field, kind of in like my, 15, 16, 17, that's when we really start to, push the weights and get into, lifts that would be beneficial in terms of track and field, squats, cleans, power cleans, all those kind of explosive activities that we could really utilize into track and field. And that was kind of my first introduction into that. And then, like anything like that, you get in there, you get a taste of it, and you're like, damn, I like this. I like feeling stronger. I like progressing in these things, and that's really where it all started for me. It wasn't necessarily chasing a physique goal at first when I started bodybuilding. It was really chasing the strength. The first guys I looked up to in bodybuilding, in terms of anything like that, was, I don't know if he was a 5-time world's strongest man, Maurice Pujanowski.
Yes.
He used to win like the world's strongest man back like early 2000s. And he was like the first guy that really kind of like looked like a bodybuilder, but he was also the world's strongest man. He was very athletic. He was fast. He was explosive. He was crazy strong. He looked nuts. And that was the first guy I saw. I remember when I was in my early teens like that. And I saw it. I'm like, this is what I want to be,
Yeah.
I remember just reading his diets online. Like, some of these powerlifters eat like the craziest shit. It's like 16 eggs, 4 Snickers bars. I'm like, all right, this is what I got to do. So that was kind of my first introduction into like nutrition in terms of physique development, which is probably not the best introduction, but that's what all started, man. I mean, it was, track and field that kind of came into, I kind of came to the point where I was like, I don't think track will be a serious career for me. I think if I'd kept training hard, I maybe could have been like, I don't know, like some, friggin' alternate to a relay team at like the Commonwealth Games or some bullshit, but nothing that was going to be a serious career, something that really inspired me to push into that.
Yeah.
So then I was kind of at the point where I was like, I said, I tried football for a couple of years with my buddies just for fun, use my speed to, do something different. And that led into the weights and lifting weights. And then, getting introduced to guys like Maurice Pujanowski, and then just wanting to get big and fucking strong, man. And that's really where it started, and that's like 15 years ago now, almost. Yeah.
Your strength, I assume your strength went up quick too.
Yeah, I was always very strong. Even when I was running track and field, I was like a small guy. Like I remember being in grade 10 in high school, like, a sophomore in high school, being 155 pounds and being able to like rep 225 on the bench, which was like, obviously then no one could lift 225 in like 10th grade, like that was like me and the gym teacher were like lifting it,
Jesus.
So it's like, I've always definitely been one of the stronger, more explosive guys, even though I was a smaller guy when I was younger. Speed, explosive strength has always kind of been my thing. But yeah, when I really started getting into weightlifting, certain lifts, especially because I really just focused on like benching, I just wanted to bench a lot for a long time, and like shoulder press and like, stuff like that. They went up crazy fast. And that was really the first lifts that I like really got good. And for a long time, those were like, way ahead of everything else. Yeah.
Were you, did you hit 500, but while you were still in school, or did I came later on?
No, there's actually a YouTube video of me when I'm 19, doing 500 pounds, at like the local YMCA.
At the YMCA?
Yeah. So I'm 19 at the YMCA. I was probably about 205, 215 then. It was like my first year into bodybuilding. It's a really ugly 500-pound bench, but I still did it. Wow. It's funny, this video on YouTube, it was one of those things. It was the first YouTube video I ever posted. I just made a YouTube channel because this is back in like 2008, 2009. Like YouTube was really in its genesis, So I remember posting it up there, not really thinking, and a couple months later, like this must have been 6 months to a year later, my email started going crazy. And within like 6 months, that video had like 2 million views. I think it has like almost 4 million views on YouTube now. It's hilarious.
Oh my God, that's fucking
more views on that one video than all my pro bodybuilding career combined.
Put together.
On the rest of my channel, 19-year-old benches 500 pounds. Yeah, that's what it was.
Now, when did you decide that that you wanted to actually compete, right? Because I mean, strength's going up, so you're having a fucking good time.
Yeah. So like at this point, like I said, I still really didn't know anything about bodybuilding. Like I knew, at this point I was really following like World's Strongest Man. I was starting to see some of the guys that had like the more bodybuilding like physiques like that, like the Travis Ordermeyers and Maurice Pujanowskis, and these guys that had like bodybuilding physiques. I obviously knew who Ronnie Coleman was from YouTube and the Yeah Buddy and all that kind of shit, but that was really all I knew about bodybuilding. And when I was young, so I would have been, 18, 19, I started working at a local supplement chain we have in Canada called Popeyes Supplements.
Okay.
And I started working there, and they were a sponsor for the local NPC equivalent show, level 1 show that was coming up in the fall, in November. And they were like, hey man, what do you think about doing bodybuilding? We're sponsoring the show. Maybe you should compete. And I'm like, I don't know the first goddamn thing about bodybuilding, So I really just went into it kind of blind. I found most of what I knew online. There was a local guy, an older guy that was a bodybuilder back early 90s that kind of helped me out with a little bit of stuff. But his information was a little outdated, to say the least. I mean, this is a guy telling you to drink distilled water from 14 weeks out kind of thing, so.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I really just winged it my first one. And all I knew was that you got to get peeled, and to get peeled, you got to eat no carbs and do lots of cardio. So that's what I did. I was eating 0 carbs and doing like 3 hours of cardio, and I just got crazy peeled and probably lost all my muscle. But I looked pretty decent, and that was my first show. I was 19 then, and that was the rest is history. You catch the bug, you do one, you're like, okay, next time I'm going to do this and this and this, and next time I'll look a little better here. I'll do this. I'll train this different, and then it's all from there. But yeah, that first one, I really just went into it like no expectation. Just really went in, did the junior class and the men's open. I won the juniors. I came third in the heavyweights. I was like 204, 207 or something. And yeah, and that was the first bite of it there. And then I went on to win the junior nationals within a year after that. So that was 2010, 2011. I won like the state championship equivalent. And then I won the junior nationals in the fall of 2011. Yeah.
Now, before I get into all that, your story is funny, man, because like when I did my first show, it was like fucking random bodybuilder that was in a gym. I was like, hey man, I want to do a show. Can you help me out? So he gave me a diet, right? The diet was the same diet I used for fucking 12 weeks, dude. And I did like 2 hours of cardio every day. Dude, I remember, and it was never really explained to me, the misery and all that. And I remember I was so fucking miserable. And then
brutal.
and like I don't have good genetics that activate or that can hold on to anything really.
Yeah.
So I was just getting skinnier and skinnier and fucking skinnier, man. And
I remember that first one. I remember I was just so convinced that like carbs were what you needed to eliminate to get peeled. So anything that I would read the label that it even had like half a gram of carbs in, wouldn't eat it. Broccoli on the label, 1 gram of carbs, no way, won't eat it. I was literally eating like white fish and like fats. That's it. But it wasn't even a keto because my fats were low.
Yeah.
So it was like a high protein, moderate to low fat, 0 carb.
Dude, were you even able to go to the bathroom? You must have been backed the fuck up.
I honestly don't remember. I remember feeling terrible. My energy was terrible. I remember sometimes I would do fasted cardio or my nighttime cardio, and I have to go, and I couldn't even drive home. I'd have to like sleep in my car for 15, 20, 30 minutes after, I'd get in there and I'm like going hypo and all fucked up, I'd sleep in my car for 30 minutes before I drive home, and my strength just went to the gutter, obviously. I mean, I had nothing to fuel my training there. But I got in shape,
That's all that matters. Now, when you went into junior nationals and so forth, because I mean, you got your pro card relatively quickly, right?
Yeah.
Did you hire a coach? Did you have like a coach or?
Yeah. So after that first show I did in 2010, there's a bodybuilder from the same city as me, a guy named Hassan Jama. He's actually a pro now, a couple years older than me. And he had already been competing for a few years before me and been to the national levels, like a middleweight and a light heavyweight. And I had met him around the gym, and then he kind of helped me out for my provincial and national show as a junior. And then after that, I didn't compete again until 2013. I took 2012 off to try and grow to compete in like men's open stuff to be competitive. And then I competed fall of 2013. I worked actually with Greg Doucette.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, Greg Doucette worked with me for 2013, where I won my regional show, provincial show, and the show I turned pro at. Yeah.
Wow. Now, when you went in, and how did your career go in the beginning? Because like I said, I'm not familiar with your early stages until you just jumped all the way to the top. So how'd your career progress after you turned pro? Was it slow, or did it kind of move really fast?
Yeah, my career has been very, very gradual. Like I'm not someone like Nick that came onto the scene and was like, winning Arnold's in my second year, or guys like Hunter. I turned pro very young. Like I was 23 when I turned pro, 22, 23. So I was very young. And honestly, the show I turned pro at, I really didn't even intend to do. I won the provincial show, which qualified me for nationals, and I wasn't going to compete at nationals that year because I thought I needed another year to grow and develop to really kill it at the national level. And then Ron Hachey, who's like the head of Canadian bodybuilding, basically, excuse me, he called me and invited me to do one of those amateur Olympia shows.
Okay.
That they were taking the people that had won the provincial show, and they were going to bring them to this amateur Olympia in Mexico. So I just finished the provincial show like a couple days before. I'm out sitting at a restaurant eating fucking dessert with my wife, and he's like, "Show's in 2 weeks. You good to go?" I'm like, "Well, fuck dessert. All right, let's go." We didn't even eat dessert. We paid the bill. We went home, and I started diet the next morning. And that
Bro,
was
you
it.
could have just ate the fucking dessert, man.
No, I had to. I was like, "Fuck it." And then, yeah, 2 weeks later, we went down to Mexico, and I turned pro there, and that was, it was something I really hadn't planned to do. And then that was 2014. No, what year was that? 2014? Yeah, 2014. And then I did my pro debut in May of 2015. I did Orlando, which Fuad actually won. That was Fuad's first pro win. Yeah, it was my pro debut. And I came 7th there. So my first couple of years were kind of like that. I was very undersized. Conditioning was never my issue, especially starting off. I was peeled to the nines, but my first couple of shows, I was like 225, 229, low 230s, and I'm 5'10". I'm pretty broad in the shoulders. Yeah. I compete like 40 pounds heavier than that now, so at 225, 230, I just didn't have enough tissue to stay, especially guys like Fuad that are, fucking same height as me and are competing at 255, 260, and then that show, there was Michael Lockett as well. There was some big guys in there, so,
bro,
so yeah, that's really how
bro, you should have snuck in some pizza, dude. He can't say no to pizza.
Yeah, I know, seriously. But that's really how it went the first couple of years. It was 7th in my pro debut. I did Toronto Pro a couple of weeks later. I came 5th. That was my first top 5. Brandon Curry won that show.
Okay.
And then I didn't then 2016 I did 2 shows, and it was the same kind of thing. 6th, 8th, and then I linked up with Matt Jansen in 2016. And we kind of made the decision together to let's take a full year off. So I took all of 2017 off, and we're like, let's take this time, do it right, do a real off season, put on the muscle that's needed to really, not just be hoping for first call outs here and be trying to win shows, Mm-hmm. I wasn't content just making first call outs at this point. I wanted more than that. So we took all of 2017 off. We came back in the spur. First show I did Indy Pro, March of 2018. And I came 4th there. And then I did Vancouver, I think, and I was 4th. And then I went to Spain, which I won, which is my first pro win. So after taking that year off, I got my first pro win. But the time we took off was definitely needed, because I came back from competing, like I said, high 220s, low 230s, to coming back like, mid to high 240s kind of, so I put 20 pounds of tissue on in that 2 years. And that was really the foundation that allowed me to move up in the ranks, and that 1 year was something I very much needed, and has really even been the foundation that I'm working off in terms of tissue today. After that, it's been, 2 pounds a year, 3 pounds a year kind of thing, very gradual. But that was the time when I really just locked in, focused on growing to be that next level of bodybuilder. And that was, brought me up about 20 pounds of stage weight. And then we won that first show. So it was like, seconds, thirds, fourths. And then I won the show in Spain. That brought me to my first Olympia 2018, where I came 14th. So I got a placing. I was like, at least if I get in the top 15, I'll get a placing. I just didn't want to be one of the 16s, I got 14th. And that was actually the first Olympia Phil lost, where Sean won. Yeah, so that was there. I was there for that one. And it was the last one that I did in the Orleans. And then I didn't qualify in 2019, actually. In 2019, it was a tough year. I had a lot of good showings. I came 2nd at Vancouver Pro, 2nd at Toronto Pro. I came 3rd in Tampa behind Dexter and Luke Sando. I had a lot of very good showings, but I just didn't get a win. Right there, and I was missed by points by 1 point that season. So it was one of those seasons where I was like, so close. But it was kind of a blessing in disguise. It was one of those things that I kind of like, okay, let's go back to the drawing board. What do we need here? And I came back in 2020. I won the New York Pro that year. And then that was the first year that I came seventh
Yep.
to the Olympia, which was kind of like really the first big jump for me, you know?
Now, during those times when you were getting close and you were getting your placements, did you feel like anything like did you feel like you were being was it like always a fuel to the fire to make you keep going, or did you kind of feel like sometimes it kind of just beats you up a little bit? And listen, I know you have your wife in your corner, so I'm sure she was there always by your side.
Sure.
But like I'm sure sometimes people get beat up or just like, dude, what the fuck? What's
Yeah,
going
man.
on here?
I'd be lying to say that, you know, I think this is a mistake that a lot of people make, is to think that people at the top are like always motivated, always hungry, and always are like so, you know, chomping at the bit like that. But we have those moments just like everybody else where it fucking, you don't want to do it. You're discouraged by some placings. You know, you're seeing, you know, you think you're losing your edge. You know, you just, things just don't, you know, aren't going how you want them to go. And you start to doubt yourself. Absolutely. You know, and I had a lot of those moments in those years for sure. I mean, especially 2016, that first year before I decided to take the year off. You know, I was really like, what the fuck am I doing here? You know, I'm just coming sixth, seventh, eighth every show, like, you know, and I just felt really discouraged and thought that these guys were all like, you know, so far ahead of me in terms of muscularity and size that it was just kind of unattainable.
Yeah.
And that's one really big thing is, you know, bodybuilding is a sport of patience. You know, it's absolutely not a quick in, quick out. You know, like, look, there's guys that do that, but you know, that's the few and far between. You know, for most guys, this is a process that takes years, decades. You know, to really build a world class physique is something that could take you 10, 15, 20 years to do. You know, especially if you're talking about in the men's open where you're, you know, guys that are 250, 260 pounds plus at 5'8", you know? So, yeah, there was plenty of moments like that. And, you know, I think that's one of the big things that is really the difference between drive and acute motivation, you know, is like, look, I have those moments where I'm like, fuck, I don't want to do this. Look, I still have those today. I've had plenty of those since the last Olympia where you know, things really didn't go my way. Look, I had a shitload of days since, you know, December where I was like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm 32 years old. I'm going backwards. You know, I was coming seventh at the Olympia. Now I'm fucking 11th. What am I doing with myself? But I think the difference of people that get somewhere in this game or in anything is that they just keep doing it even though they feel that way, you know? Like, even when you feel like, fuck, I don't want to do this today. I don't want to eat my meals. I don't want to train today. You know, I'm done with bodybuilding. I'm done with this bullshit, blah, blah, blah. You still just get up and fucking go through the motions. You know, I just get it done. I get my workouts in 100%, get my meals in. And I think that's one thing people need to really just remember is things might not always go your way, but if you keep taking steps in the right direction, you're doing everything you can in your power to make sure that eventually it will be, right?
Yeah, the consistency and basically
Yeah.
drive of not giving up for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Now you brought up the last Olympia, and I know you talked to multiple times, man. Has it gotten back now to a point where now it's just a fuel for you?
Yeah. I mean, it honestly was a fuel pretty much immediately. You know, despite it obviously being something that did make me doubt myself in a lot of ways, you know, it was still very much fuel right away. You know, the feeling I felt almost immediately after getting off stage was I wanted vindication. You know, I got off stage and I'm like, I just wish there was Olympia again next weekend where I could just fucking do this right and like put it to bed in my head. You know, like I felt embarrassment and I just felt like I didn't do it. I did a disservice to myself and the potential of my physique. You know, and it was really disappointing to me in that fact. And that was definitely something that fueled me. You know, I was very hungry. I want to get up there as soon as possible. I'm like, I just want to get on the next show and do it again, peak right, you know. And it took a lot for me not to get in this Arnold, honestly. You know, I really wanted to do the Arnold. I wanted to get up there as soon as possible and get things right. You know, but I know I need a little more time mentally, especially just to kind of recharge, you know, take some time over Christmas with my family. You know, we came back to Canada, spent some time with Melissa's family and my family. You know, did some stuff that I hadn't done in a long time. You know, went snowboarding, like did some stuff that are kind of, you know, just relax and not worry about bodybuilding so much. Even though I'm training and getting my meals in, and all that, it's my mind isn't 24/7 bodybuilding. You know, and just kind of unravel from that for a little bit, which can be hard. I'm not gonna lie, that's hard for me. You know. But now, you know, I'm definitely excited to get back up there this year and and feel that redemption after that Olympia, you know.
Did you can you announce what show you're doing? Did you
Yeah, I'm gonna
mention
do
that yet?
Toronto, which is first week of June.
Gotcha. Which is, yeah, it's right around the corner, not too far away.
Yeah, so I've started prep for that kind of. I mean, that's like 14 weeks from this past weekend. So
Yeah.
Soft launch. We're getting things moving and getting in the swing of things, and starting to come down slow.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that's the fucking breakdown right there of
Yeah.
your whole history.
Yeah.
The last question I wanted to touch base on, because I had these conversations with multiple people a lot of times, is, open bodybuilding, right? It kind of goes back and forth with like the look they're looking for and so
Sure.
forth. And I was using a comparison from this past top three for the Olympia, right? Where you have
Yep.
Hadi, Nick, and Derek. And a lot of people, Derek and Nick are like two different looks, right? Two completely different
Very.
looks, their
Yeah.
structures and the way they're built. And I always, the way to me, open bodybuilding is, for example, to me, is the look of Nick. And the reason is Nick isn't born with a structure. He has to create that structure with
Yep.
muscle mass conditioning and so forth. Derek, he's born with a structure, right?
Sure.
And I feel like classic physique is the one where you either born with a structure or you're not. If you're not born with a structure, don't even bother, like type of
Yep.
deal. So, I feel like a lot of times, the guys that have mass, like for example, your mass, like you have to build mass, and then that mass
Yep.
has to create a structure to your body
Sure.
more and more. I feel like we're now where that's kind of like being a little bit overlooked, and it's more highlighted for the guys who are just automatically born with a certain shape, and then boom, boom,
Yeah,
boom.
I think social media is a big involved thing in this. I think trends are set through social media. I'd be lying to say, obviously his family, but someone like Chris Bumstead is probably causing this. That obsession with shape and aesthetics. I mean, he's the most popular guy in the industry, and it's trickle down effect from there.
Yeah.
So I see it. I know people. That's the hot thing right now. I definitely agree with you in that. I think sometimes it's overemphasized in terms of its importance in open bodybuilding, especially. Look, they created classic for a reason. And I do think that symmetry and aesthetics and flow should be important in men's bodybuilding.
Yes.
But I think, like you said, like Nick created that. And he created that through building muscle, and that added tissue is what created that shape. He wasn't just born with a tiny waist and broad shoulders. He built those shoulders. He trained that core. He built those abs. He built those quads. And for a guy that doesn't have necessarily all the genetic tools in terms of aesthetics, when Nick hits a front double, I look at that and I'm still like, that's a fucking awesome front double, So I agree with you 100%. It's a tough one because I like to think that bodybuilding is just who looks the best in the lineup, when they all stand next to each other, who's the best man, whether it's aesthetics or whether it's muscularity or conditioning or whatever the X factor you have is. I like to believe that just the best man wins. And I truly believe this year, Hadi was that man.
Yeah.
I think Hadi had the absolute best balance. There was guys with better shape. Look, no one's going to be saying that Samson or Andrew don't have better shape than Hadi, but his shape is still awesome. But the thing with Hadi is if you look at Hadi back 10, 15 years when he was, competing as an amateur, his shape didn't look as good as it does now.
Correct.
And that's because he created that through muscularity. Like you're saying, he built those fucking balloon lats, crazy quads, these things that accentuated that shape. Plus he comes with just the most ridiculous hardness and conditioning. And I think, in terms of overall balance and, completeness, he was unbeatable this year. And I completely agree with that sentiment for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, brother. Well, I'm glad we're on the same page.
Yeah. It's one of those tough ones. And we talk about this on Fuad's podcast. And, it's one of those things of contention right now. And I think because classic physique is so popular and some of the biggest players in the industry like Chris or Ramon or Urs are guys in classic physique. So you get that want and that popularity for that kind of going into other classes. So then you get physiques like Samson's or Andrew's where they're kind of what's favored more, even if they don't necessarily have the tools of somebody else. And I'm not saying that they don't deserve to be placed with it. I'm huge fans of these guys.
Yeah.
But
listen, all you need is this to be clipped. And fuck it, clickbait real quick on fucking YouTube.
It says fuck the aesthetic guys. But I completely agree that muscularity and creating that shape through muscularity, like you said, should absolutely be primary. Yes. And if not, go to classic.
Yes. And
Yeah.
and you mentioned like this and that whole aesthetic look and stuff like that. It's only going to grow because this industry right now, if you go
Yeah.
to gyms now, it's youth are going to the gym. The
Yeah.
youth are the gym. The
Yeah.
youth are the ones buying supplements, products, clothing, apparel. So the actual business, right, that's driven by the youth right now,
Yeah.
right, is leaning towards the classic.
Yeah.
So which of course is going to, pull the looks in a certain way and stuff like that, man. But
Yeah, I think this is also one of those things too, and I think you get this in a lot of things. Like, you can see it in fashion trends and these things where things are kind of circular.
yeah,
Like wearing those like dad New Balances when we were
yeah,
kids were like the ultimate loser shoe you could wear, and now wearing those like old school New Balances is like the coolest shoe you can wear.
yeah,
I think this is one of those things where those, Arnold era 70s, 80s physiques, kind of went out of fashion for a little bit when you had like 90s and Dorian, early 2000s with Ronnie and
yeah,
Jay and these kind of guys where, having tight midsections and, weren't really the thing, and just being fucking gigantic was the thing.
yes,
And I think we're having an over adjustment right now. And I think then we'll kind of find the mid balance. I think it's kind of like things in politics. It's like, you'll get like, goes too far one way, then too far the other way, and then let's hope we kind of can settle in the center.
in the middle. Yeah,
And I think that's the direction we're going. I think it's, and you look at the champions of the Olympia right now, it's kind of been all over the map. I mean, you had Ramy, then you have Brandon Curry, you have Sean Roden, you have Hottie. You could see someone like Nick winning it soon. You could see Samson or Andrew winning soon. I mean, there's so many different physiques out there right now. Like, it's really just kind of finding its place, I think. But I do still think when you look at the Olympia as a whole, that muscularity and conditioning is still king, and I think Nick
and it should
Nick
be,
and Hottie,
and it should be, yeah,
Nick and Hottie are the prime example of that, right there,
yeah, and I agree, and I feel like it really should be, and then shape second. I mean, sorry, shape right afterwards and so forth, and
Yeah,
then
exactly.
a complete balance, right? But
Yeah.
just like I said, if you're gonna judge classic, it's gonna be shape first, no matter what. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
Yeah.
Unless the other guy's shape is so, but his conditioning destroys everything fucking else.
Sure. Yeah. No. And like I said, I think you need to just judge what's in front of you, but having that criteria clear, because if not, like you're going to get a lot of guys that are trying to downsize to, get better shape, what I don't think is the right thing in men's open. Or you're going to get a lot of guys that are just discouraged and they're going over to classic, which maybe they would be guys that should be in the open. So it's kind of a weird space right now, and I think it's just all kind of sorting itself out with introduction of a lot of new divisions. But I'm hopeful that it's going in the right direction. I mean, Hottie was definitely. I thought the judging was very good this year, and there was no gifts given. Ramy was a defending champion. He ended up in 5th because he was not at his best. It would have been easy for them to just say, hey, he's good enough. Let's have him up there. But you gave a guy that doesn't speak a lick of English Olympia title, and he was absolutely the best guy on stage. So, I think these guys, Tyler and Steve, know exactly what they're doing, and I think we're going in a good direction. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It was good, man.
Yeah.
Well, listen, brother, I'll make sure I'll send you a message from the Arnold when I'm excited because I'm rooting for Nick. So,
Me too. I got Nick winning, so I'm excited to watch next weekend for sure.
Yeah, it'll be good, man. So
you're heading down?
Yeah. I'm leaving on Thursday if my wife doesn't.
Thursday.
Yeah, if my wife doesn't stab me because she's pregnant. So this is the first one she can't she's not coming down. I told her
oh yeah,
too far deep into pregnancy to go.
Oh yeah, shit.
Yeah, because she's doing July.
Oh wow, coming soon.
Yeah, so I don't want to bumping into people and all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And things like that.
Getting sick or some shit. Everybody always gets sick at the Arnold too. So,
bro, we came back from the Olympia. We were all actually. I was fine.
Everyone was sick.
I was fine because I was sick like fucking a month before.
Oh,
so I was
got
good,
it.
but everybody was sick as shit.
Everyone, yeah.
Everybody was sick as shit. But yeah, I'm heading on Thursday. I'm flying back Sunday. And that's it. And then I should be back for the Olympia in October up to Florida.
Yeah.
Check that out as well. And that's
it,
man.
No, it's back in Florida. I'm excited for that. I like the Florida Olympias, Vegas is Vegas and it's like the spectacle,
Yeah.
And it's cool to be in Vegas. And look, the theater this year was fucking awesome. You know, it was a crazy venue. And Vegas obviously has that pizzazz to it that Florida doesn't have. But from a competitor standpoint, man, I'd be lying to say competing in Florida is honestly a lot better. You know, like when you're staying in Vegas hotels and you're like, you know, you're trying to friggin' valet your car every time you want to go everywhere. The grocery stores, it's just different. You know, the gyms are really busy. There's not as many options. You know, Florida is very nice and very convenient from a competitor standpoint. So I mean, and look, I came 7th in my 2 Olympias there, where I came 11th when I came back in Vegas. So I'm ready to get back to fucking Florida. You know,
it's gotta be Florida. I'm
chomping at the bit to get back to Florida. Yeah.
The only thing with Florida, man, is like that seating for it's rough, man.
Yeah, the seating sucks when you don't have bold tiered seating. I hopefully they can figure something out. I'm assuming they're gonna have the same venue again, so I bet it'll be the same this year. You know, they just got to make that jumbotron real good. You know.
Yeah. The screens are big as shit, so you're gonna see it. If anything, I just like me personally, I just have to invest in closer seats, and that's it. So but Ian, thank you so much.
Of course, man. Anytime.
Have a good night, brother. Say hi to the wife, and
man.
and that's it, dude.
Awesome. Appreciate it. You having me on, man. We'll talk to you later.
See you, brother.